Here I am at the Bayshore Park canoe and kayak launch. It's low tide. Over there's the US 41 bridges. Across the way is Ponce de Leon Park. And there's one of the fishing piers here at the park. I'll be going past, headed that direction, and since it's low tide, it's very rocky here along the shore. I had to watch my step and even found a big piece of glass I'm glad I didn't step on. So it's time to head out. Now across the way there is Punta Gorda. You probably see the condos and whatnot there. I had to wade out, if you can call it that, quite a ways to get enough water to even paddle the kayak. Right there's the park and the launch point. And I'm going to paddle out past the end of this pier here and head toward Grassy Point and maybe points beyond if I feel up to it. I'm paddling away from Bayshore Park, which is in Charlotte Harbor, Florida. Not the harbor itself, the unincorporated little town that is called Charlotte Harbor. The Charlotte Harbor town here, and Bayshore Park in particular, were the site of the earliest permanent settling by people of European descent. I believe back in the 1840s, but it was a going concern in the 1860s during the Civil War. This was an important port for bringing cattle here to ship to Cuba through the Union blockades by the rebels to sell the cattle in Cuba to raise funds for the Southern War effort. And there were several long docks along here back then for loading and unloading of cattle. Long docks because it's so shallow here, they had to get out a long way from shore. Now those docks are all gone, but that's how this place came to be. Okay, I've paddled a mile or so from Bayshore Park in Charlotte Harbor, near the US 41 bridges. It's a hot day, even though it's only 10:40 in the morning. It's pretty warm. Right ahead there, that's Grassy Point, the actual point. And then we come to the neighborhood that is called Grassy Point with some big, expensive houses. And that big, square-looking, office-looking building right in front of us, that is was built by Dr. Gregish, who was the obstetrician during the birth of my youngest son, Paul. That house was under construction at that time, so part of my hard-earned went into its building, and it comes complete with elevators and all kinds of gewgaws. We'll pan around here. There's another big house, more of a Spanish colonial style house. That's on Grassy Point. Now we come around to actual Port Charlotte, although Grassy Point is a part of Port Charlotte. And right over here, which marks the line between Charlotte Harbor and Port Charlotte, I guess, is the Port Charlotte Yacht Club with the blue roof. So I'm going to turn about here and continue on. And in the opposite direction from these houses is a big old harbor. Technically this is part of the river where I'm at. Over there is Punta Gorda. And Ponce de Leon is at that point of land out there. So I'm going to continue westward here. Now, straight ahead of me there, the little beaches I think of as Gilligan's Island. Still a little ways off there. I'm at the mouth of Alligator Bay here, and around here. I've paddled along that opposite shoreline there several times. And then looking up the bay, and that's the Port Charlotte Beach Complex right there ahead. And the houses near the beach complex, and then right here, nearby, is Grassy Point, which is what tells me I'm about 2 miles out from where I started. Man, is it hot. This is the first time this summer I had to put my headband on underneath my hat to keep the sweat from running in my eyes. But I'm going to continue on here and see what's what. There's a little bit of a breeze behind me, which is probably helping my progress slightly, but I think I'll enjoy it more on the way back when it's blowing in my face and cooling me off a little bit without impeding much. Day 19, or is it day 22? Still adrift. I don't know how I got so lost. I see ships once in a while. I think I see one in the distance now, but they don't come close, except for one. It turned out to be Somali pirates. They took one look at me and my little kayak and laughed and left. I'll continue on. Not really. The beach is right over there. Well, here we are. I sure hope Mary Ann's got something ready to drink up there. But if not, I've got plenty of water with me. Right here where I'm at, there's plenty of water around me, just not the kind to drink. And it's only about a foot deep. Not a very wide beach here, and it's even less at high tide. We're just about an hour past low tide here, and I'm about to hit bottom here in a minute. There's a little sandpiper right ahead of me on the beach. Crab trying to hide by this submerged log here. He says, "Wait a minute, who are you? Get back, I'll pinch you." Yeah, I was just down there beyond those bushes out over the water a little ways, and I came over this way because there's just a little bit of shade here that I could be sitting in. Right over in there. I'm gonna sit down here. It's just before noon. Drink a bottle of water or two, and then it's time to head back. So I beat the rains. Well, here's from the view from my noontime shady perch. And it is right at noon on my watch. I don't know if you can see that glint of reflected metal roof straight ahead of me in the far distance, but that's roughly where I'm headed. Started back about 7 minutes ago. It's about 3.4 miles from end to end. I made it in one direction, now I gotta make it back the other. But I've done that before. In this direction, I have the wind in my face, which is actually nice. It's not enough to hold me back, but it's enough to make me feel a little bit cooler. I was just cooking going the other direction, not feeling the wind in my face. So, I'm going to have at it here. Well, I got to say so far the weather forecaster's got it right today, at least as far as wind speed. They called for 4 or 5 knots, which is apparently about what it is right now, and it feels good. I'm grateful for it. But I've been out here on days, not in this particular spot, but in other places around the area where they call for winds of 4 or 5 knots, and it's been closer to 10 or 12 knots, which isn't that big of a deal for larger boats. It can make a big difference in a little old kayak. So I'm usually pretty wary of long open water treks like this, but looks like this was a day for it. Even though the heat index is over 100 right now. I'm just pausing for a minute here at the mouth of Alligator Bay to get a little shot of the clouds over Punta Gorda over there. Punta Gorda, not where I was born, but it's been my hometown for over 30 years, most of my life. It's not a bad little town. I like a small town. You can have the cities. It's time to get back on my way. Well, here I am approaching the park, almost back where I started. Straight ahead of me is where the launch is, just to the left of that restaurant there, which is that big building. So I'm pan around here a little bit. And there's the U.S. Highway 41 bridges across the river. Over to Punta Gorda. That's the Civic Auditorium straight ahead there. And turn back around here and keep going in the direction I want to be going. Several anhingas in the water right here. They dive and hit some fish and come back up again. Some people call them snake birds. I understand that in some Asian countries the people tie off their necks so they can't swallow the fish and let them dive and get the fish. And when they come back in again, they get the fish because the birds cannot swallow them. A little bit away from some boat here. Let's see what these two over here are doing. Nope, that one's just dope. What's this one gonna do? He's just treading water. Here I am closing in on the Bayshore Park canoe and kayak launch. A little over 3 hours and 10 minutes since I set out. There's some good smells coming from the restaurant next door there, but I don't think I'll spend any money there, and I'm not really dressed to go in anyway. And let's see how the things are here. The tide was out when I left. There's a lot of exposed rocks. It looks like it's come in enough now to cover most of them up, which may or may not be a good thing. Shut off the camera here and concentrate on watching out for obstacles. And here it is, back in Bayshore Park. Very smooth and very hot. And time to go home.